good morning. It's a beautiful new week. This beautiful week. This is Atlantic Television Network. It's Atlantic Blowout, and it's a syndicated live program of the network featuring chit-chatting and conversations on special interest topics, on news events and stories through correspondence reports, expert opinion, and stakeholders analysis. Good morning. Let's look at the topics we'll be looking at an ATN Blowout today. From Delta State, monarchs demand reconstruction of Okama community. And then in Edo State, government petitions police over breakdown of law and order. From nationwide protests and the lips of many Nigerians, presidency has warned that you cannot really predict the end of some of these protests. And then they made reference to the EndSARS protests and exactly the way it ended. So they're saying, watch what you're doing. In fact, they're warning Nigerians at the moment. You find out more about that story when we delve into the details of that one. And then we'll take the story from the National Assembly. Senator Orji Kailu backs part-time legislator. He said this on his social media platform, and he gave his reasons, which we'll be reading out to you later on the show. And then from crude oil, economy faces threat with 1.4 million barrels per day output, according to reports from the NUPRC. And then on human trafficking, immigration receives 66 victims from Ghana. This was a joint effort between Nigeria and Ghana, and this was made possible because of their collaboration, and these people have been rescued. We'll find out more about these stories after we introduce our guests right after this break. Please stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
you human
on the point of order.
Honorable
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
from the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Welcome back. It's time to delve straight to the program proper. We have with us in the studio Dr. John Idumange. He's one of our regulars on Atlantic Blowout. He's a rights activist, public affairs analyst, a management consultant, a lecturer, amongst many other things. Good morning to you, Dr.
You are welcome to Atlantic Blowout.
Welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you.
So, President Biden finally stepped down. How did you... what did you think? What was the first reaction you had when you saw that?
I saw it coming because,
Really?
yes, I saw it coming because I think it became very evident after the debate. His poor outing coupled with, I think he has some health issues too, coupled with the conviction of the son of felony crimes and so on. So I know that, you know, the Democratic Party is a party that would want to win the presidential election by any means necessary. And that is why...
So they had to replace their candidate.
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at this story from Delta State now. Delta State Traditional Rulers Council, DSTRC, have called on the federal and the Delta State government to immediately begin the reconstruction of Okwama community destroyed in the aftermath of the brutal killing of 17 soldiers in March this year. Now, in a 4-point communique issued at the end of their meeting in Asaba, the Royal Fathers also implored the newly elected local government council chairman to embark on people-oriented projects. The chairman of the organization, Oroje of Okwe Kingdom, Major General Felix Mujakwero, retired, who presented the community, said that the construction of Okwama community will alleviate the sufferings of the people and will also facilitate the early return of the displaced residents to their ancestral homes. So it means that a lot of the residents of the Okwama community are not even there anymore. They had to flee due to the crisis that Okwama community has been in the news for in fact, so people who never knew that community existed now know about that community with different wrong stories or negative news coming from that community.
That incident, it happened in March this year, and we all condemned the killing of the 17 soldiers, some of them top-ranking soldiers.
Yes.
But we also decried the approach of the military because their actions did not show professionalism in executing that assignment. So,
did you really expect anything different from the military concerning their approach? Because a lot of people saw that coming.
See, Nigeria is evolving, and most of our institutions are becoming more sophisticated than we used to have. We expect a military, an army that should be law-abiding, because the army itself is a creation of the law in any way. So we expected the military to act in a professional way, and not just to go in their usual just go in and begin to kill because they are quick. By the end of the day, there was one program we had. I asked a question: have they been able to apprehend the culprits? If no, it means they have failed. Because you cannot just roll in machinery, bombing, killing, and so on. Meanwhile, the culprits, those who committed the offense, are not apprehended.
And even apprehending the culprits, you need to make sure that these guys are really the culprits. We need to also know the measures that were carried out in apprehending the culprits. Because a lot of times we have seen this raid, like you said, and you know, something bad doesn't really need to happen in that environment. We've heard stories where young boys were just sitting down somewhere and then there was a raid. Yes,
in Bayelsa State it has happened. It happened first in Odi. It also happened in Agay. It happened in Odioma. So by the end of the day, such military operations just ended up killing people who knew nothing about
retaliation.
Yes, but that sort of retaliation is uncivilized, it's unprofessional. So I want to join forces with the king of Okwe, that the federal government should do something to alleviate the suffering of the people. For instance, burning down houses. All these locals, where will they have money to come and rebuild their settlements? Again, because of the psychological scar in most of them, they may not return to that community for a long time, except they have been given assurance. One way you can give them assurance is to ensure you rebuild the community.
And then security.
Yes, after rebuilding the community, you reorganize the community in a more civilized order so that such an event, such an incident will not happen. But there's one point I need to make. I expect a situation where the state government, they should not leave it to the federal government alone. The state government, especially the Minister of Chieftaincy, Minister of Works and the Minister of Chieftaincy Affairs should come together. They should partner to ensure they don't just give food and so on to the displaced persons, but they reassure the people of their safety and security. And one way they can achieve that is to ensure they rebuild. I am not saying they should build big houses.
Maybe you should explain what you mean by rebuild the community.
What I mean by rebuild is so many houses were burnt.
The government should build those houses.
Yes, it is not out of place. They can build local housing units for the people. I know it's a community. There may be big houses, but they may not be many. So building local houses, you know, then mobilizing a section of the police to the community. Maybe if the community never had a police post, they can now bring a police station to reassure the people. And in doing so, the cooperation of the locals is very, very important. Just the way they went and invaded the community, I'm sure if they did not succeed in getting the culprits, it may be that there was no cooperation between the local people and the military. And that is why the police is a more civil force. The police should be able to go in, investigate. The military does not investigate in most cases. They court martial. If there is an allegation that Mr. A has committed a crime, the next thing they do is to court martial him.
Some of the reasons the people left the community, aside the fact that their houses were burnt and all of that, a lot of them had fears.
Yes.
There were fears that these military personnel might come back. Immediately I heard that they killed some military personnel in a particular community, I just thought, like a lot of other Nigerians, flee from that place immediately.
That is it.
Because they are coming for you. You know, that's what a lot of Nigerians would feel. And that's what we saw, you know, playing out from the media. So the reason some of them left is not only because their houses were burnt. So even if the government goes into the community and then builds those houses, what is the assurance that those people, what is the assurance the government wants to give those people that these military personnel are not coming back, not for the corporate this time, but for the people of the community?
You know, I just mentioned psychological scar. You know, the people of Okwama had to pass through a lot of trauma, a lot of depression. All these are psychological.
They lost loved ones.
Apart from losing loved ones and their property and whatever, that psychology, that fear, that trauma is not something building a house alone can cure.
True.
So that time, you know, we said that they should move in some counselors, some psychiatrists, to ensure that, you know, the returnees were mentally stable to be able to take what they had seen at that time. So rebuilding the place
Is one.
should also come along with other benefits, like, you know, living. A detachment of the military can go there and live with them as civil members of our indispensable society. Relate with them. The police who can go there, relate with them. It happened in OD. OD was sacked. That was during the Obasanjo administration. And those who were killed were people who did not even know what was happening. But today, I think they have overcome now. The people have been able to overcome the trauma, the depression, and what have you. That's years? About 20 years or thereabout.
We heard the other time that the government actually went into the OD community and gave families some amount of money concerning what happened years ago. But my question, back to my question now. What is the assurance that the government wants to give these people that these military men are not coming back? And what is the assurance on this side that the military men actually will not go back for those people?
They will not. They went there on command. You know, the military men cannot invade the community without the knowledge of the military high command. You know, something happened military men were killed. So the military men that went there did not go on their own. They were directed to go there. So if there is peace, of course, if there is sustainable peace in the community, there will be nothing like military men visiting them frequently. No, it won't happen. That was an isolated case, and it has happened, and the government has to find a solution to it.
All right, let's hope that more will be done, especially regarding the psychology of these residents of the Okwama community, or former residents of the Okwama community. Let's look at this story from Delta State now. Edo State, I beg your pardon. Edo State government has petitioned the Inspector General Police over last Thursday's breakdown of law and order in Benin City, the state capital, blaming court-reinstated Deputy Governor of the state, Philip Shaibu, and others for allegedly attempting to execute a judgment of the Federal High Court in Abuja, for which a stay of execution had been filed and appealed entered. Now, in the petition signed by the State Solicitor General, Professor Faith Osadolo, on behalf of the State Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice, the state government alleged that Tribal, contrary to the rule of law, resorted to self-help, leading to the wanton destruction within Benin metropolis and death of a police officer. Now, the government therefore has urged the police to thoroughly investigate the matter by inviting Tribal and associates, and if found culpable, should be brought to book. Now, the document was addressed to the Assistant Inspector General of Police, AIG Zone 5. What are your thoughts on this story?
You see, that is what makes politics very, some people brand politics as something very dirty. In the first place, no matter the bad blood between the governor and the deputy, I mean, how can you impeach a man? You just have how many months to go? But I think by September or so, they are conducting the elections. They should have been able to mend fences to live together until they end their tenure. Now, Baseke had to wield the big stick, and boom, the deputy was impeached. I don't think, I studied that matter, but I don't think the impeachment procedure, the impeachment followed the right procedure. It did not. It did not follow it. That is why, even if they try that matter in the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeal, I think the deputy will win. I followed that matter. The procedure was wrong. You cannot just wake up one morning and say, come, impeach this man, without reading out charges. They are playing politics, and that was, this court might have seen that it was just political. Maybe Shaibu never committed any crime that will warrant impeachment, and that was why that judgment came. And when a judgment is made like that, judgment was entered in favor of the Deputy Shaibu. Normally, the state government will go for appeal, but maybe Shaibu could not wait. Maybe he was overzealous too, and whatever has happened has happened. When an event like that happens, when an incident like that happens, you cannot blame only one party. The two parties are involved. If you slap me and I don't retaliate, there will not be a fight.
So we cannot keep having scenarios like this where, according to you, which you have said, it may be them playing politics.
Politics, yes.
We're talking about Nigerians here. These are people that are leading Nigerians, leading humans, leading people who are actually paying their tax, leading people who deserve good leadership. So we cannot keep having this, tussle up there. Look at what happened with the chief whip sack in the National Assembly. And a lot of people are saying, oh, that's just political, this and that. We cannot keep having these scenarios in our political class, especially looking at the state of the country's economy and what the people are going through. When the people see what is going on up there, they're like, are these people even aware of, the pain of the citizens or the residents of this country at this moment, where all of these things are even being talked about at the moment? In
the past, you may not know much about it. In the past, before 2000 and before 1999, in the past, these are it is the politicians that will create way for the military to take over. That was in the past. Now, you see, there should be some civility on the part of public office holders. Look at what is happening in Rivers State now. Every now and then, one party is going to court, the other party is going to court, and the courts are flooded with cases of Fubara, Amewule followers, Wiki pro Wiki. This is uncalled for. This is not the kind of leadership we bargain for. You see, so I think in the coming republic, if they are going to review the constitution, they should review it and give the citizens some power to sack their governors by way of either protest or recall. So
the review that we had of the constitution,
yes,
there will be another review.
The review has not been completed. They should review it in such a way that they say if a governor misbehaves, while we are talking about his immunity and so on, the citizens who voted for him should have the power to call him to order. We have governors who are riding roughshod. We have governors who are virtually emptying their treasury. It happened in Kogi State. It was when he left office that people knew that the white elephant was really corrupt. It also happened in Kaduna State, where a whole lot of, that is, I'm taking the words of the Assembly, the House of Assembly, Kaduna State, that the governor misappropriated 420-something billion. And this thing will continue, you know, the thing keeps happening. It has become a recurring decimal. And that is why, in the constitution they are going to review, they should make provision for the masses, for the electorate, to exercise some influence over those people they have elected, without necessarily...
What kind of influence?
Yes, without necessarily completing their tenure. Yes. If you are a governor, for instance, we voted for you and we discover that, majority of the people discover that you are taking their money, you are taking it and investing in your personal property. The people can come together, a section of the key stakeholders can come together to ensure they make a statement and if possible go to court for your impeachment. The impeachment should not just reside, the power to impeach should not just reside with the House of Assembly. Where, you know, it's a constitution where the people have power. People have, yes, the people should have power.
Don't you think this could be...
It is not, it is possible.
Don't you think it can be influenced by probably an opposition?
Everything in Nigeria and in the world, everything can be influenced. Yes. But we are talking now.
Do you agree it can be influenced by an opposition party?
What? There's nothing like, see.
Because you just said everything can be influenced.
Yes, but before the masses will take such an action, there will be tangible evidence to show. For instance, it's not difficult to know when the governor is stealing. Yes. Number one, the governor is always traveling. Number two, he's always buying property. You cannot buy a property without a third party, remember. You cannot do any bank transaction without a third party. Because somebody must receive your money.
How will people even know that the governor is buying property?
Who said? Let me remind you, in Bayelsa State, during the time of Alamesia, we were the members of the civil society. We got to know.
Because of your position.
You move with the bank. The banks are public institutions. Sometimes you can write to them, say, look, if there is any transaction here concerning the government, let us know. If you don't let us know, the bank will risk being burnt down. You see, we are coming to a stage in Nigeria where if the politicians, if public office holders cannot listen to the people, it may lead to mass action. And that is what I mean in some cases. That's why they say we don't know where they protest. Protesting is a fundamental human right. You can't stop it.
Okay,
people will protest.
We'll actually get to that story,
yes,
because I have a lot of questions to ask you,
yes,
regarding that. But looking at, I'm interested in the immunity you made mention of, because this was in the news where a lot of arguments were on for that particular clause of the Constitution, talking about immunity of the leadership, that's the governors and his vice, where Nigerians are saying we should, in fact, take away the immunity so that we can handle the cases when they go overboard and probably do the wrong things, even while in office. But it seems you're not saying take it off completely.
No, if you take away the immunity, how will a chief executive perform?
Exactly.
What you do is limit, there are some areas where you have to take away. If the immunity is 100%, take away at least 30%. And let the governor, the president stay with 70%. So and those areas should be spelled out. You can see, Donald Trump was tried. And the so-called January 6th event that incident occurred when Donald Trump was in office. Although he had immunity, look at the Supreme Court of the United States has said that Donald Trump, as president of America, should be able to enjoy some level of immunity, not total, not absolute immunity, but limited what? Immunity. And that is what we should enshrine in the Constitution of Nigeria. So that while governors and presidents enjoy their immunity, the immunity should not be absolute.
And they can also be tried.
Yes, it should not be. It should not be absolute. No, when you are in office and you carry out any duty, there should be a limit to what you do. But beyond a particular limit, they will tell you, look, if you cross this line and do these things, you will be tried while in office. But if you do only these things that are necessary for your office, okay, limited immunity. You cannot take away the immunity. If you take away the immunity from governors and presidents, remember this is a federalism. If you take away that immunity, the person cannot even perform, execute his constitutional responsibilities.
And too many oppositions will be actually after that particular person. Let's look at this next story now. The special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, has warned those behind the planned nationwide protests to be very careful because they may not predict what could be the end of such action. Recall that Mr. Onanuga had accused supporters of the Labour Party presidential candidate in 2023, Mr. Peter Obi, of being behind the planned protests. Although he acknowledged the fact that it is the right of people to protest in a democracy, those behind it should be careful so that it will not be hijacked by people who would use the opportunity to cause problems. Explaining more on the post of his X handle, when he accused Peter Obi's supporters of the planned protest, he told newsmen on the phone, in his words, and I quote, "My post is just to highlight that the people who are organizing this so-called nationwide protest are members of the Labour Party. They are Peter Obi supporters. So that's my own take. It's my own opinion, and so I'm not going to say more than this." Dr. John, from your explanation earlier, it looks like you're strongly in support of this. Are you also one of Peter Obi's supporters?
Which Nigerian will see this kind of economy? Look at the now. Let's start with this. Minimum wage, $52. Have you converted from the exchange rate and so on? $70,000 is not up to $55. And that $55, somebody who does, a good computer job like data analysis in America earns it in less than two hours. And that is what constitutes our minimum wage. Does it really make sense?
That's the minimum wage, Dr. John.
I'm talking of the minimum wage now. I'm not referring to listen.
No, hold on. We need to understand that is the least.
What did I mention? I said minimum wage.
It seems like some people are beginning to misunderstand the meaning of minimum
Don't
wage
educate me on that. I am an arbitrator. Listen.
Hold on.
I mentioned 70,000 minimum wage, which is less than $55.
I understand what you're saying.
I did not say maximum wage.
Hold on. You need to understand that it is not just the two of us we might be the ones talking now,
yes,
but we're not the only people in this conversation right
yes
now. Yes, we have the viewer out there. So when I'm saying some things, I might not be educating you, I might just be educating the viewer, so don't take it personal. Yes.
Okay, what I am saying is that our minimum wage, I did not say the maximum wage. That is what you wanted to correct. Our minimum wage, that is the lowest worker, earns 70,000, which is less than $55.
Okay.
And now come to think of it, look at the price of rice. It means that the minimum wage of the average worker, of the lowest worker, cannot buy him a bag of what? Rice. Now the economy is biting hard. The exchange rate is, in fact, the foreign exchange has run amok. Unemployment is piling up. Companies are leaving Nigeria. Manufacturing companies are exiting Nigeria, and you expect the Nigerian mass, that Onanuga man. See, Bola Tinubu is a president who is a pro-democracy activist. When you bring on board some cranky elements into your government who make unguided utterances. I mean, such people should be kicked out.
What is unguided about?
Unguided? How can you say I've witnessed so many protests from the time of Babangida, anti-SAP protests. We saw it. Several protests have been going on. Even before the 2023 election, protests have been going on. Labour will go on protest. ASU will go on protest. Medical workers will go on protest. And all these protests caused by Peter Obi, let's be civil at times. Or because you know that Peter Obi is a figure, is a Labour Party, did they tell him there is Labour Party that is organizing the protest? So that is an unguarded utterance. Such utterances are insensitive to the plight of the people. You are in government today, tomorrow you will leave. And you have brothers and sisters who are equally poor, living in the villages, and you could come up with such an utterance. That if we protest in the first place is a fundamental right. Number one, it is our right. It is the right of people to protest.
Which he also pointed
out. Number two, it is unfounded and unfortunate that such a person could associate a cool-headed, quiet administrator, a technocrat like Peter Obi, with such a protest. And come to think of it, you are mentioning the Labour Party. The Labour Party is beyond Peter Obi, for God's sake. The Labour Party is a party that has spread all over the country. In fact, there are so many people abroad who are also members of the Labour World Party. Such a protest, the planned protest, cannot be orchestrated by one man. It is orchestrated by Tinubu's hardship. It's orchestrated by unemployment. It's orchestrated by cost of living crisis. It's orchestrated by the poor wages they pay Nigerians. It's orchestrated by the hardship students are facing.
Opposition
how? Are the students part of the party? Am I part of the party? We are all feeling the heat. People are angry and hungry. And you are talking about Peter Obi is organizing what party? The public should wish it away. Okay. That is an idle talk nobody will take.
All right.
The cause of the protest is simple. There is cost of living crisis. Nigeria's economy is sinking. We don't know what to do again. The next thing we'll do is to protest as a way of registering our frustration in Nigeria. Such a protest can happen in South Africa, it can happen in Kenya. Yes, it can also happen in Nigeria.
It's happening.
They should leave at the South protest and South protest alone.
That is one part of his statement,
yes,
where he accused the Labour Party of being the reason or being in charge of this protest, the mastermind of this protest. Now let's look at the other part where he talked about the fact that this, if not well handled, right, we might not know where it might end or how it might end. And he made reference to the NSAS protest. And that is not the only protest we have had that was hijacked in Nigeria. If you go back to the time of the NSAS protest, a lot of the elderly people were telling their children not to participate in the protest because of the fears they have had due to previous experiences that they might have had from protests in Nigeria. So they were warning their children not to be a part of it. It was all around social media. People were posting conversations with their parents as videos and as pictures. So let's look at that, all of these scenarios that we have had. You made mention of some of these protests. And this particular protest, what is the guarantee that this protest at the end of the day will not be hijacked as other protests have been in the past?
It is government that will guarantee, listen, it is government that will guarantee whether a protest will be peaceful or not. Government has a coercive machinery of power. When people are protesting, it is the responsibility of the police to guide the protesters to avoid people from infiltrating. So maybe the statement Bayo Nanuga is making, he does not know that he's indicting himself. More or less, he is saying that government will not be able to guarantee a peaceful world. When people are protesting, even in America, in Britain, in Canada, workers are protesting, you always see the police by their side. You always see the police with their, not armed. You always see them, guiding them. This, when they get a particular fountain, where they want to make a statement, they make their statement to the press and they leave.
Well, that's not always the case in Nigeria.
It has been like that.
Let's come back to Nigeria.
No, you don't know. Listen, when Gani Fawemi...
Please hold on, you can make your statements, but yes, don't make statements like you don't know or you are not aware. Please, just make your point and make it plain.
What I mean is that when Gani Fawemi was organizing protests in Lagos, there's a particular fountain. People will protest and get there, make statements and go. When I say you don't know, maybe you were not old enough. You are not old enough to understand.
Hold on. Have we also, that's why I said don't go there, because you're beginning to raise an argument beyond our conversation.
No,
let's stay on the conversation. Now, let's look at, have you also seen cases of protests, right, in Nigeria, where people came out to protest and you saw police go there and...
It is not only in Nigeria, it happens everywhere.
Get the point. Get my question.
You invited me to talk. You give me more time to talk. Ask the question, I will address it.
I invited you to ask you questions, which is what I am doing now.
Yes.
Back to my question. Haven't we seen cases where people are protesting and the police open tear gas on them?
What I'm saying is that thing happens everywhere. In France, it happens. In America, it happens. In Canada, it happens. In Britain, it happens. Such a thing is not out of place. It is the responsibility of the police to ensure, if they discover that the protest is going out of hand, they now swing into what? Action. It is not the protesters that will guarantee that. What I'm saying is simple. It is if I'm protesting, I am not the one to guarantee whether my protest will be peaceful or not. Government owns the army. Government owns the police. You have the civil defense is there. You have road safety is there. They have all the apparatus of government.
But we had all these people when we had the NSAS protest go sour.
NSAS protests went that way because of the interests of some people. It was not the protesters that caused that problem.
So what is the guarantee now that we will not have some people with such interests?
When you talk of guarantee, I have told you that it is the government that will guarantee whether the NSAS protest, for instance, was not peaceful because government wanted to crush those youths.
That's a very strong allegation there.
You know that we went to we went to court. Are you aware of the case in court?
But back to Onanuga's statement now. Back to Onanuga's statement where he said we might not know how this will end. You know that when we talk about okay, the government should play their role, the people should play their role. You make it peaceful as a people. You as the government provide the parastatals to make sure that it is not hijacked and all of that. At the end of the day, if this protest is hijacked, lives will be lost. People will be thrown into a state. I don't know how to explain the pain of losing a loved one at the end of the day. So let's keep his statements now. Let's look at this. I was having this conversation with a guest last week where I was asking him these questions. With the way protests have been in Nigeria, a lot of the protests, especially the huge protests, NSAS protests, which this one is also looking like it's going to be a very big protest also. Do we have other options that we can hold on to at the moment to prevent things like all those occurrences from happening again? Now,
I don't know if you knew about the anti-Jonathan must go protest. Did you know about it? It was in the West. Lagos was the center. It was a massive protest. No life was lost. It was peaceful. The West, all the pro-democracy activists, all the civil society groups gathered, and it was not a protest of one day. It was not a protest of sometimes 7 days. No havoc was caused because government was alive to our responsibilities. Except government says we want to disrupt this protest. The protest can always be peaceful.
Because there was no statement
when like Gani, listen now, you have talked to when Gani Fawemi was alive. I don't know, tons of protests were organized in Lagos, all peaceful, all peaceful. When Adams Oshomole was NLC chairman, several protests were organized from 2003, 2004, 2005, several. Everything went peaceful.
Okay.
Yes. It is when I cannot, tell you the number of protests. Protests have been made time and again. The only thing is, when government begins to see the people as their enemy, and when there is a peaceful protest, they will now go and shoot gun, throw tear gas, and cause problem. So, the responsibility of making the protest civil and peaceful is in the hands of the government.
Are there other options that we could look at the moment?
Protest has no option. Protest is protest. Peaceful protest. That's what we are talking
That's the only option
about.
that Nigerians have to
Yes, for now, in order to register, listen, in order to register the frustration of the people, the protest is not destruction of property. If people want to destroy, don't you know the property of public office holders?
That is the aim.
It is not.
That is the aim.
It is not the aim.
The aim is for it to be peaceful. Get my point.
I know.
The aim is for it to be peaceful, but does it always end up peaceful?
I have cited several cases
Recently,
of.
have we had
I've cited several cases of peaceful
have we had
protests
any major
in
protest
Nigeria
recently that was peaceful? That
yes.
ended peaceful.
Yes, even Jusun workers.
I'm talking about a protest of the whole. That this protest,
the protest when they say mass protest, it is not as if everybody is partaking. No,
a lot of people,
don't think that everybody in Nigeria is partaking.
Like you have said, everybody's feeling the heat, right?
So those who know, they at least if you are grown up enough to know why you have to protest. Listen now, there are some children they don't know the meaning of protest.
True.
I know the meaning of protest.
Okay.
I have seen so many protests. I have taken part in so many protests. The essence of protest is the constitution says peaceful protest. No constitution will guarantee violent protest. So in accordance with the constitution, the masses will engage in peaceful protest. In doing that peaceful protest, it is the responsibility of government to ensure that they guide the protest. Let me use that word, guide. If they fail to get, for instance, if people are protesting, it is the responsibility of government to say, bring in policemen to guide, not policemen that will be aggressive. So if you are protesting, no destroy property, Nigeria, we are all this our country, and they protest and make their statement before the international press. That is the way it is done. It has happened time and again.
You see that happening?
You are citing NSAS protest. NSAS protest is not the first protest.
Do you see that happening with this?
You cannot ask me such a question.
From your own analysis now, looking at these protests now, and the statement of Bayonad, and then some other Nigerians at the moment, you see that everybody playing their role to make sure that the protest is peaceful.
The most annoying part is bringing in Peter Obi. Peter Obi is not a violent person from the beginning. Peter Obi is not mobilizing anybody. Peter Obi is only the leader of a party. And this protest is not Labour Party protest. It's Nigerians that are protesting. Students will be there. Market women will be there. Who does not know that the price of Gari has gone up? Was it not Wole Soyinka and others that led the protest against Jonathan? Was there any violence? Was it not Gani Fahimi and others that led several protests to remove Abacha's government until he was locked up in several prisons and so on? So protest is not new. It is, I've said it, government will make it peaceful.
Government will make, that means you're making a statement for the government. Government
will make it, because it is their responsibility. That's what I'm saying. That the constitution says when people go out to protest, allow them to protest. Government will now mobilize the civil forces to ensure that the protest goes on peacefully. So if there is any violent protest, hold government responsible. That's the statement.
Let's get to see how this will play out. A lot of oppositions here.
I will also join.
Concerning this protest. A lot of oppositions and statements that are being made concerning this protest, and a lot of people are also in support of this protest.
Yes.
While the argument continues, let's see where this will actually take. Wait, let me ask you one question before we move on to the next story now, still concerning the protest. The results, because this protest is for a reason, right? And looking at the state of Nigeria's economy now and everything, where we are at the moment generally now, after this protest, are we really seeing a change after this protest now? We're trying to foresee what would happen after the protest. Do you see this? Do you see any positive change coming with this protest?
Number one, you see, the essence of every peaceful protest is for the people to vent their anger, their dissatisfaction with the system. A system that has marginalized them, a system that has impoverished them, and so on. The end is to address, the leaders of the protest will address Either you address a press conference or you address the international media. Now, when such addresses are given, warning will go to IMF, it will go to the World Bank, it will go to China, where our leaders have been borrowing money to put in their pockets. By the time that is done, it will be a clear indication that these people are coming to take this loan not in the interest of Nigerians, but in their personal interest. It is after the protest, and we discover that there's no result. When the Nigerians discover that there's no result, other actions will follow. That is usually the coloration of every protest.
When you say other
actions will follow. For instance, people coming together to write letters to all these international money lending agencies. Actions concerning, when they are presenting the budget in September, they will present another budget. People can go there and disrupt the presentation of the budget. Yes, it has happened in Nigeria. Even at the state level, it has happened. You see, governance is about the people. Now, when you are carrying on as if the people do not exist, then you don't need any good governance in the state. Governors, the money they are spending to buy airplane is our money, and it is our money. We are here talking, and so many people have no guarantee to it. Is that government? Is that the meaning of governance? And this is the frustration we want to express peacefully. And somebody there is saying Peter Obi is okay. Has Peter Obi organized a protest before in this country? Does it have a precedent that Peter Obi rose up and organized people to protest? It's unfounded. We should dismiss such allegations.
Now, okay, so
yes.
Let's look at the next story now before we take some time off. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Privatization, Senator Orji Kalu, has voiced his support for the implementation of a part-time legislature at both federal and state levels. Now, according to Senator Kalu, that's the APC Abia North, this measure could significantly reduce government expenditure and enhance public trust in the political system. The former Abia State Governor expressed his views in an interview published on his verified Facebook page over the weekend. He stated, and I quote, "I think it will be a very good idea if my colleagues and other members of the Houses of Assembly will agree that we sit for 3 months and do constitutional amendment first." Kale elaborated on his proposal, suggesting that the legislative bodies could convene 4 times a year with provisions for emergency sessions as needed. This, he argued, will allow for more efficient government without the need for full-time legislative operations. Senator Orji Kalu backs part-time legislator. You know, we're talking about cutting cost of governance at the moment due to all of what is going on. Is this a statement in that direction?
I don't think so. Orji Kalu was governor of Abia State. His administration was fraught with fraud, stealing and massive looting and so on. Now, I don't take such people seriously. You know why?
Why?
They are people who have assisted in killing the country. In Nigeria, even when the National Assembly is in full time, they have too much to do, so many things to handle. What I expect any reasonable person to say is to cut down the allowances of the members of the National Assembly. That is a better way to do it.
Even after they have cut down their salaries?
Yeah, if they have cut down their salaries, that is why I say, okay, they have cut down their salaries already. Kudos. They have done well.
50% for 6 months.
But that is not actually the cost center of governance. The cost center of governance is, number one, travels. Especially the executive traveling with a large entourage. Number two, several appointments and no job done. A minister will have PA, that PA will in turn have another PA, the minister will have SSA, he will have EA, and so on. These are the appointments that when you build them in, they now increase the cost of governance. Allowances, when somebody travels, is given extra code. These are the things. It is not the money paid to lawmakers. How many are the lawmakers? In the Senate, we have is it 105 or so lawmakers. At the House of Reps, they are a bit many, but they have work to do. If they have cut down their wage bill and so on, that is fine. But I will never support this part-time lawmaking, because even in full-time lawmaking, so many things have not been touched. Nigeria is a big country, and it's like marrying a wife on part-time basis.
But, Dr. John, you must always use that example.
Marrying a wife on part-time basis. She comes to your house for 2 or 3 days. The rest of the week she's not there.
You know, I think he's talking about. He's talking about
cutting the cost.
Yes, meeting less. Because when they meet, you know, there are talks about when they meet. So
yes.
He's saying instead of us to be meeting all the time and you know all of those things, so why don't we just meet less?
It needs more
and that
time
way
to
we
do
don't
it.
get to spend much money. Do you understand? And if they're meeting less, it simply means that I know Nigerians will definitely call for, you know, cutting cost of all of this. After all, you're not meeting as much as you're supposed to be. So don't you look at everything now, Dr. John?
Now the Constitution states the number of times you meet. Remember, except that one is changed. What is
if it is amended, that means that will definitely
if
be
they say
adjusted.
okay, yes, it's not about part-time lawmaking, but it's about reducing the number of times. Constitution, I think 182 days or so they have to meet in every year. Yes, so 182 sittings. So if the constitution can be amended to say okay, we can meet for 120 times, that's because it will now reduce the sitting allowance of accruable to lawmakers. But like I said, that is not the cost center that is increasing the cost of governance. Contracts that are given out that are over-invoiced. A contract of 10 billion, like Wike said, a contract was given at 10 billion, later it was raised to 100 billion. By the time people knew it, it was about 200 billion. Those are the problems. Those are the things increasing the cost of governance. Lack of due process. In appropriating money, you don't follow due process. You just go grab the money and the next thing is, oh, I have spent it, and so on. These are the areas where the cost of governance, they are the things that contribute to the increase in the cost of governance. Not allowance alone paid to lawmakers. At the state level, it is even worse, because some governors, after making the budget, they don't follow the budget at all. They sit on all the money. When you apply and they look at your face and you are smiling, they give you part of it to execute projects. Where governors pay contractors personally as if they are paying people working on their private property. These are the areas, especially federal contracts. So much kickbacks, so much over-invoicing.
So that means when there were talks about taking off the middlemen and giving out these contracts, you're in support of that?
No, what do you mean by middlemen? I don't know. Explain that.
They'll have to really give us an explanation of that, because they talked about, you know, when the government wants to give out a contract, it has to follow through. There's a due process, right? Before it gets to the contractor, it gets to some middlemen. And so they're saying instead of that, we will be in communication with the contractors ourselves, and there's nobody involved, there's nobody in the middle of that. So that's taking off the middleman completely. Now
let's say I am a minister, and there is a road to be constructed. It is my responsibility to, you know, bring out that project and take it to due process. Due process will work on it and issue a certificate of no objection that can continue. Now my minister has appropriated some money. Instead of the presidency, instead of the executive arm of government to release money to me, they will say the contractor should come and see them directly. When he sees them, see, we operate a presidency where the SSA, SA domestic and so on, there are many. It's a very massive government we operate in. If you go to Asura, for instance, for you to see the president or Her Excellency, the First Lady, you pass through some people. Most of these people you are passing through will demand for money. That is the kind of corruption that has eaten deep into the Nigerian bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is even worse. If you go to the Federal Civil Service now, for somebody to push a file from here to there, he will demand for something. For him to move it to the Oga, that person will also demand for something. And this is where bureaucratic corruption has eaten deep into the fabrics of Nigeria. So eliminating all these things, initiating transparency practices, and ensuring that everybody who spends money gives account of how he spend the money will be better for it.
In cases, talking about giving account for how they spend the money.
Yes.
In cases where investigations are on or interrogations are on concerning a minister and how, look at the case we had, was it last week with the Women Affairs Minister?
Yes.
Where she was being asked how she spent a particular amount of money, where they talked about 1.5 million naira for fuel, where she made mention of, I watched one of the videos where she said 1.5 million naira for fuel. How is that much? We traveled to one state. I think she said she had like 6 vehicles follow.
These are the issues.
6 vehicles, 1.5 million naira for fuel, and that is nothing. So after a while, how much do we even get to hear of these cases again? How much do we get to hear of these investigations that we were following? How much of it do we even get to hear? So how does it play out at the end of the day? So what should be done concerning making sure that these things are followed through till the end?
Since 2005, I am one of the advocates telling the Nigerian state to establish special courts, special anti-corruption courts that will try corruption cases with dispatch. ICPC, EFCC, Code of Conduct, these things should not be subjected to the regular court. So that you can now say, okay, if there is a case of corruption, official corruption, let that case be tried expeditiously in 3 to 6 months. You see result. The person is either convicted or freed. But we have not done that. The regular court will say they are investigating. The police will say they are investigating. The moment what money passes hands, that investigation will be ad infinitum
exactly.
forever.
If you look at the investigations and the court, it's not like the court that is available or the processes that are available are not enough.
They are enough.
There are provisions for these cases to be followed through to the end.
Yes.
So even getting another court for that reason, what is the difference? It's still going to be process being followed, due process being followed.
Well, there are special, when we say special courts, there are courts that deal with special issues. If it is corruption case, it deals with that corruption case. Today, you cannot keep a matter in National Industrial Court for too long. You know why? It is a labor-related court. A matter concerning labor, the worker is the employer is employee, and other parties. It's like you can take the federal government to court, NLC can take the federal. So there's a stipulated time during which such a matter will be decided. It is not so with the regular judicial system. And that is why establishing it will not be too much, even if they say due process, but the due process will be short. And that is why you discover that in administration during the military, when the military were there, when the military men were in power, matters are treated with dispatch. So there are 3 weeks a matter has been concluded, 2 weeks a matter has been seen through. But in a civilian democracy, of course, you have to follow due process. But how due is the process you are following?
How would that special court stop? How would that special court stop monies from changing hands?
No, we are not saying money will not change hands. But if it is anti-corruption in nature, if the court is established specially, they may not necessarily establish new courts. They can designate some of the existing court and tell them, look, court number 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All of you will specialize in trying only anti-corruption cases. So when the matter comes, they concentrate on it. And in no time, they get to the conclusion and they pass their judgment. But in this case, the woman who stole somebody's akara in the village is in the high court. Another person who killed somebody is in the high court. The man whose car, the failed brake, and he ran into somebody is in the high court. So that it models up everything. So if there is a special court trying anti-corruption cases, the judges will concentrate. They say this matter is anti-corruption, and they will give their best for it, even if new courts are not established.
All right, let's go back to cutting cost of governance now.
Okay.
And the statement by Senator Orji Kalu about the part-time legislature and what you have mentioned about contracts, being followed through to make sure that we don't have people siphoning funds, as that being also one of the ways in which we can cut costs of governance, right? So you're suggesting or recommending that they should reduce the times of sitting instead of giving a part-time legislature?
Yes, they should reduce their sitting time, which means they have to amend that section of the Constitution that says, for instance, if they are to sit for 182 times, the Constitution can now read the National Assembly can sit for 120 times or 100 times, as the case may be. That does not mean that emergency sessions will not be held. Normally, you see, in Nigeria, we have so many issues to legislate on. We have so many laws to make. We have so many policies to fine-tune in Nigeria.
Speaking of laws, is that really our problem? We have so many laws, the same way we have so many laws. You said we have so many laws to make. Yeah,
the problem we have is, because the laws are not effectively enforced, people believe that, what is the need for making another law? In America, for instance, America is a democracy. In America, the laws that are operational in New Orleans are not the laws that are operational in Florida. They have different laws. Yes. If you are trying somebody of federal offenses, you cannot try that same person in a state court. You must try that person in a federal offense. For instance, when Hunter Biden was tried, gun control, drug addiction and so on, these are federal offenses. So he was tried in a federal court. So every state has its own peculiarity. Every municipality has its own peculiarity. In Nigeria, we seem to be operating a uniform system. And
that's why we need to look at, like you have said, how effective have the laws that we have had been.
That is the problem.
To talk about making more laws and, packing more laws into our constitution.
For instance, your community does not have a federal university. And you are the senator representing that community. And you believe that given all, if you look at the statistics, maybe population, the spread and so on, your place deserves to have a federal university. You can make a law, you can pass a bill, you can move a motion, pass a bill concerning the establishment of such an institution.
How much of that do we have?
Yes, people are doing it. It depends on the vibrancy of your lawmaker. But in most cases, when such institutions are established too, the problem is funding. Funding now comes in. Funding, setting up the institutions, then politics it takes a lot of toll on those institutions. So the laws we have are many, but there are still other areas we have not covered. That said, the crux of the matter is that in Nigeria, laws are not enforced. Laws are not enforced maximally. In most cases, laws are enforced in disfavor of the poor man.
Okay, having said that, we'll take some time off now, and when we return, the conversation will continue. Please stay right here with us on Atlantic Blowout.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring honest pop news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, social economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
these people into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
On the point of order.
Honorable
On the point.
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
It has been quite an interesting conversation in the studio during that break with different ideologies being brought to the table. But let's go straight to the topics that we have now. Our next story is talking about the output forecast of Nigeria's crude oil output and the fact that it is far below the 1.8 million barrels per day quota that was given to Nigeria by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries OPEC, as well as the 1.7 million barrels per day that was stated as the 2024 budget benchmark by the federal government. So even the benchmark by the federal government and the benchmark by OPEC are not being met. This indicates oil revenue shortfall of about 1 trillion naira against 2024 budgetary expectations. And the data was actually obtained from Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, according to the June 2024 report. And crude oil and condensate production indicated that month on month, the nation's oil output excluding condensate dropped by 2.3% to 1.2 million barrels per day in June 2024 from 1.2 million barrels per day in April 2024. And the data has indicated that the nation's oil output continued its downward trend from January 2024, when it recorded 1.6 million barrels per day, before falling to 1.5, then 1.4, then 1.3, and that was in February. We maintained that in March and April respectively. How do you see this? We have been talking about us not meeting OPEC's quota for a long time. In fact, at the point, they almost say that Nigeria is no longer the giant of Africa. Let's get your thoughts on this story.
We have said it time and again. The production of crude oil is a very tricky thing now, especially when Nigerians, especially those who are in the top class, retired generals, very big politicians, and so they have known the importance of crude oil as a money spinner. Now, the only reason we can have a shortfall of crude oil production is oil theft. Oil theft is at the root of the problem. If OPEC, there was a time in the past when OPEC gave Nigeria 2 million barrels per day, and Nigeria was meeting up. Yes, we are producing even more than that. And you know, at that time, they said, look, the highest Nigeria could go was 2 million barrels, because if we produce more, Kuwait produces more, other countries, there will be oil glut in the world oil market. The time was when there was oil glut in OPEC. You know, we also have OPEC plus, those countries that are not, they are producing oil, like Russia, who are not members of OPEC. Now, I expect government to, you know, squarely face this scourge of oil theft. If the companies are producing at full capacity, if Texaco is producing, Ajip is producing, Shell is producing, and other companies are producing, NNPC should be diligent enough to monitor this production. And just as, though it is difficult, because in some of the oil producing communities where the pipes are laid, even the surveillance people hardly get to such places. And those are the areas I want the federal government using technology to be able to monitor those pipelines. What happens is some unscrupulous elements in Nigeria will go, and what they do is they will, you know, put holes in those pipelines, those pipes, they put holes in them and divert the crude oil to vessels. It happens everywhere in the Niger Delta. It happens even in Lagos. Have you not heard the story of oil theft in Lagos? It happens in Ondo State. It happens everywhere oil is produced. So my question is, why will NNPC allow this to continue when they know there can be a solution to it? If it means hiring more people in surveillance, you hire more people, more youths in the Niger Delta to do surveillance for you, to be able to, you know, plug those loopholes. Oil theft has denied Nigeria a robust component of our foreign exchange through crude oil. And that is why, you know, surveillance of these oil producing pipelines and so on is key to increasing our production output. And so much of this can be done with technology. We have said it time and again, that deploying the right technology, Nigeria is a big country, yes. The Niger Delta is big. But by the time you bring it under GPS, it's a small place. You can easily identify where oil is being stolen. You can easily identify where there's oil spillage and so on and so forth. Yes. So using technology, then the second aspect is cooperating with the local communities, like the PI, the Petroleum Industry Act. I don't know how far they have enforced it. If they begin to implement it, and the so-called 3% goes to the rural areas, to the traditional rulers and so on, they will be the watchmen of the crude oil produced in their domains. But if that does not happen, some oil producing community, the youths can even go ahead to sabotage those pipelines and begin to take oil and divert it.
Some of these communities have actually complained about that. They have talked about these companies not even being in talks with them.
Yes.
They just noticed that there's a pipeline across their community, but they don't even know what company is in charge of that and all of that. And they also talked about some of these personnel from this company coming in to check the place, you know, and all of that. But they don't even know when it's the real people that are coming, or if it's even some thieves that are coming. So they don't even know the difference. So they are just there looking at all of these things going on in their community, coming in and going out. So that is why they are asking for talks. They are asking for better relations between them and the oil companies. That's the host communities and the oil companies. Okay, you want to add to that?
Yes. There's another development that's coming up. You know that since MOSOP was founded and the leaders of MOSOP were killed, and so Ken Saro and his followers, you know, they have not been drilling oil from Ogoni land. Now, because the federal government is now proactive in meeting the needs of the people. So in cases like this, I expect the federal government to satisfy the locals to ensure that the oil in Ogoni land should be drilled. Yes, it should be drilled. There are so many other oil fields like that in the Niger Delta area. In Bayelsa State, there are communities where they have been drilling oil, and because the locals are so poor, the locals will help to sabotage. Government, sometimes the state government will say, look, this, what you are doing is bad. But you see, you will see reasons with these people. Like you said, all pipelines are passing behind you. You see oil people, you see oil company workers coming there time and again. Meanwhile, the whole community is in darkness. Sometimes there's a rig nearby. That rig, they enjoy 24-hour power supply. But you don't have light. You live in thatch houses. For those who do who have zinc houses, in no time, their zinc houses are destroyed because of the soot and the pollution. So the federal government should address these issues, resume oil production in Ogoni land and other places where they have virgin lands, virgin oil fields. So increase the output. Because it is shameful that OPEC, if OPEC has graciously given us 1.8 million barrels, it's a good thing. It means they want us to earn more money to solve our problems. But when we cannot meet up that production quota, it's a shame.
All right, the SEMA Area Commander of Nigeria Immigration Service have said on Saturday evening that they received 66 traffic Nigerians from Ghana at about 4 p.m. And according to reports, there are 59 women, including children, and 7 young men amongst the 66 returnees. Speaking with newsmen shortly, the Comptroller Abdullahi Adamu, the Area Comptroller of SEMA Command of NIS, said the rescue efforts were in collaboration with the High Commissioner in Ghana. So they did this in collaboration with them. Human trafficking in Nigeria. These people have been rescued, women, children, and men included. Your quick thoughts on this one before we wrap things up. Time's longer on our side.
Yes. These are people who have been driven out by frustration, hunger, deprivation, and poverty. You see, in the 80s, early 80s, we used to say Ghana must what? Go. We chase away the Ghanaians. You know that Ghana must go back. Carry it and put your load and go back. Ghana was in a bad shape. Everything is leadership. When the leadership of Ghana was so bad, the economy came down. In Nigeria, now the leadership is at its lowest point. People, youths now find it fashionable to even crawl out of their homes and trek to Libya, go to Ghana, seeking for, most of the girls, they go there for prostitution, just to make ends meet. Well, was it not on this program when we identified 3 sisters? 3 sisters, one 15, the other one 14, the other one 16. All of them in Ghana. What are you here for? A lady brought us here to do prostitution. So that is the problem. We need a vibrant economy. We need, you see, I had trusted Tinubu. I know that I did not vote for him as a person. I had trusted that Tinubu, being a technocrat, being an accountant by profession, and being a pro-democracy activist, should be able to build a virile and sustainable economy. But that is not happening. The federal government should, buckle up. If possible, Tinubu should change, he should reshuffle his cabinet, bring some people on board, and disappoint some people. That, you see, we need to move forward. Every other country is moving forward. Nigeria cannot remain stagnant forever.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Even aside the fact that we had some of these people purposely leave the country for that reason, we still have some of them who were taken out and they were told that they are going for different reasons, maybe to work, to earn, a living, do something legitimate, only for them to get there and they found out that they were actually taken there by human traffickers. And that's something that should also be looked into.
Yes. You see, in all, what makes human trafficking even fashionable, even lucrative, is lack of jobs at home. If all youths are, most of the youths are engaged in doing something that will earn them a living, nobody will think of going to Ghana to work. I used to have a worker, the last time I checked, they say, oh, he traveled to Libya. Libya is a war-torn country. Since when did reasonable Nigerians travel to Libya? And the last I heard was that it was repatriated.
Wow.
So now this bad governance and bad economy are combining to become an embarrassment to this nation.
Dr. John, we appreciate you coming today and all your thoughts on the show today. Thank you so much.
Very strong Atlantic blowout.
Okay.
Got to the level of exchanging blows.
We are going to have this conversation again tomorrow on Atlantic Blowout. This time with different people, but Dr. John has played his role today. We hope to have him some other time on the show. This is where we get to wrap things up. We must thank you for being a part of this conversation. Would not have been possible without you. So thank you, our viewer, for being a part of this. Remember that we are open to sponsorships and partnerships. Stay connected with us on our socials on Facebook, YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, on Instagram, TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1, and on X at Atlantic TV Net. Remember to watch us live on our website at www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Remember also that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you once again for watching. I am still Enidoye Jackson. Coming up next is Open Conversation. Please stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring honest pop news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, social economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. On ATN.